King Thongren Whitehammer watched in dismay from the guard post as the depleted forces marched back from Port Kaer'vyan. He had extended a hand of friendship, and the thrice-damned elves had slapped his face with it. Cale Steelcaster approached the king and bowed. "My lord, I am sorry that we have failed you." "Don't be absurd, Cale. You faced an ambush and managed to escape with as many of our people as possible, including our queen. While this was undoubtedly a setback, it is hardly a failure." "There is more, my king," the ancient runesmith continued. "Our rear guard reports that the elves are pursuing us in force. It seems that driving us off was not enough for them. They obviously wish to eliminate all the survivors." The king sighed. "It seems that way, Cale. But this time we will not be caught unaware. I have called for reinforcements from the hold. While they take their places, I want you to have your rear guard lead the elves into the hills south of the granite quarry. Once there, we will unleash our forces and show the elves the price of treachery." "Yes, my lord. I only ask one thing, that I might be allowed to join this force and bring the powers of our ancestors against these villains, to make them answer for their cowardly attack." "Of course, my friend. While I will send the queen back to the hold to manage things in my absence, I shall welcome the aid of both you and Thane Gimrick. I feel that we shall need all the strength we can muster in the conflict to come." All right, everybody. Got another great narrative battle. Tonight, the Dwarven holds take on the Highborn Elves in a 4,000-point narrative battle. Now, I did not actually, I was so excited to get into this game. I did not take a picture of individual deployment, so we're just going to have to use this deployment and kind of discuss things over. So, starting on the Highborn Elves side, the unit on the left is a unit of Knights of Rima. There's 9 of them in there with full command and the banner of Rima. And with them is Thal Victus, the Elves' Prince. He has a hardened shield, dragon forged armor, elven horse, the giant sword, and the Prince of Rima honor. Next to that is his unit of flaming lancers, or his Highborn Lancers. There's 9 of them as well with full command. With them is Alora Victus, his wizard, master level with 4 spells from the School of Pyromancy. On an elven horse with the Armor of Fortune. Well, actually, she didn't have the Armor of Fortune. We messed that up. He actually has the Talisman, and I don't recall what name it is, but the same 5 ward save Talisman. Flaming Lance and Scepter of Power. On the other side of the forest, as we keep moving to the right, there is a Lion Guard Chariot, then a Fire Phoenix, then a second Lion Guard Chariot. What you don't see on the board at this time is a unit of 19 Sea Guard with full command and the ambush upgrade. And with them is Commander Sul, his battle standard bearer with heavy armor, shield, sword of strength, the fleet officer honor with the ambush upgrade, and the great bow of Elu. Okay, so then on my side, starting on the left, I have a unit of 16 clan marksmen with the guild handgun upgrade. They have shields and a musician champion. Next to that is a steam copter. Then I have a unit of 20 graybeards with full command. They have great weapons and are bearing the war standard. With them is Cale Steelcaster, my runic smith. He has shield, the runes of gleaming, oaths, and resilience, and the rune of the forge on a runic talisman. Behind that is a rune-crafted dwarf ballista. Next to that is a unit of 20 Deep Watch with full command. With that unit is Thane Gimrick Ironhelm. He has plate armor and shield, and his weapon has a rune of might on it. He is my BSB. Next to that is a unit of 20 Kingsguard with full command. That unit has the runic standard of shielding, and with them is King Thongren Whitehammer, which he has a runic weapon with one rune of fury, the rune of smashing, and rune of destruction. Runic armor with 2 runes of iron, and the runic talisman with 2 runes of shielding. I'm going to just say for the record, this was a terrible build for my king based on what I'm dealing with. I was thinking that I was going to be facing more monsters, and it just didn't happen. And then far on the other side is my second steam copter. So we go into Highborn Elves turn 1. They got the drop on me because I knew he was going to have maneuverability, so I wasn't really dropping my units all at once. He ended up skunking me for first turn and takes it by coming on hard. He really has the biggest nut to crack there is that Knights of Rima unit, and he can do a lot of damage to me if I can't get the drop on him or get those great weapon units into him. And with my Kingsguard way on the other side, I've got to rely on the Greatbeards to get the job done. And over here, you see he's not going to essentially let me do it because he's putting heavy pressure on me with the Chariots and the Phoenix. So I don't really feel like I can afford to ignore these threats and send the Hammerers or the Kingsguard running all the way over there as of yet. We go into Magic, and he starts off light, hits D6 Strength 4 flaming hits on the Gunner unit and kills 2 of them. But to do it, he miscast. I think he threw a few dice, but it was enough to blow up 4 of his Lancers. I think the miscast result was a 12, so he had the chance to lose the spell, but he didn't lose the spell either. But yeah, I'll trade 2 Gunners for 4 Lancers any day and be happy for the trade. And then he did the Fireball. I know we did that out of order. He should have done the Fireball first, but whatever. It ultimately didn't matter, but he ends up killing 1 more of the Gunners from the Fireball attribute there. Then he opens up 2d6 Strength 4 flaming hits. So this is the Pyroclastic Flow. The other one was... I don't know, it's hard to keep the Pyromancy spells straight when I'm doing this. But yeah, so he drops 2d6 Strength 4 flaming hits on the great weapon wielding Greybeards and ends up taking 6 of them off the board, which makes me nervous. What made me more nervous was when I rolled the panic check, I ended up failing the first time and getting it on the reroll, so that was a little scary. So we go Dwarven Holds turn 1. I really still don't know at this point how to deal with these knights. I definitely want some time to shoot them, but I don't know that I can handle a charge from them, so I'm being a little cautious and maybe too much so. So I move up a little bit, and I basically move up the copter so that he's not going to be able to get into my Greatbeards with his Lancers, figuring that I'm going to make him try and charge the Gunners. Maybe I can, or not the Lancers, I'm sorry, with the Knights of Rima. He charges the Gunners with him. I might get a couple killed off in the shots, and then I'm hoping just the fact that they have shields and shield wall will keep them alive long enough for me to turn my line. But I'm not sure he's going to take the bait on that. And whatever he does with the other unit, the Lancers, could cause more problems there as well. Over here, I really move. The only big news here, other than slight moving over. Oh, I think I forgot in my army list to know I have the Anvil of Doom. The thing that's at the very bottom, or the Anvil of Power, is my diorama for my Anvil of Power. I forgot to mention it because it really doesn't do much for the first half of the game. But yeah, it's down there. But you can see I move the steam copter up around to threaten the Phoenix, or to get the Phoenix or the other chariot. I will go ahead and say I eventually do a wound with the Phoenix with the Steamcopter, and we both forgot that the Steamcopter has flaming attacks, which should have given a 2-up ward to the Phoenix. So, oops there. But other than that, the Kingsguard come up a little bit. I really think I'm going to end up eating both of these Lion Chariots in the front. I'll probably lose some to impact hits, but I should be able to make short work of them. So I'm kind of welcoming that. If he's foolish enough to split the chariots into the 2 units, send one into the Deep Watch and one into the Knights or the Kingsguard, that's even better. But I think he's kind of learned his lesson from the last game we played not to do that. So then I actually get one spell off with the Anvil of Power, which drops 2d6 strength 4 hits, a -1 to hit in combat, and dangerous terrain 1 on the left Lion Chariot. I rolled 8 or 9 hits, and in terms of wounding and his armor save, I only get 1 through, but it is enough to hit him with those other penalties. Ouch. I'm really at this point hoping that the Anvil comes into its own a little bit more, because this is not worth 300 points right now. I end up then turning the Ballista on the Phoenix, end up popping I hit him with the Ballista because he's runecrafted, so I get a +1 to hit, and I inflict a single wound. My shooting is pretty much holding up to what it's always held up to. So, Highborn Elves turn 2. First thing he does is he declares a charge against the Gunners with the Knights of Rima. I open fire and kill 3 of them. And then they fail their panic check and turn around and run, I think it was like 8 or 9 inches close to the edge of the board, which is super awesome to me. Him failing that leadership 10 was great, particularly since his BSB is ambushing and hasn't come on the board yet, so it's entirely possible, I mean, not great chance, but entirely possible for him to go off the board. The other thing I didn't notice, but my opponent did, is that I am actually within a legal charge distance with my copter to the back of his unit. So if that copter stays there this whole turn, I can charge him off the board next turn with it. And I'm super excited about that happening because I had no other idea how I was going to deal with those knights. But for the most part, it's been a bad first couple of turns for my opponent. The miscast and then this leadership 9 or leadership 10 failed roll just is absolutely crazy. But then over here, he's a little bit more successful. He ends up getting both chariots into the Kingsguard, as I pretty much thought. He did end up taking a single wound from dangerous terrain in the chariot on the left, so not terrible for me, though those impact 2d6 plus 2 strength 5 impact hits are really going to hurt. And then to add insult to injury, he decides to go ahead and fly his Phoenix over the back end of the unit first and do the sweeping attack on them, and ends up killing 5 of the Kingsguard because I just need to roll better. My armor saves just weren't doing anything here, and that makes me more nervous. I really couldn't afford to lose those 5 before the impact hits. Then he ends up bringing his unit on in ambush here so that they would be within 12 inches of the knights. But then as he's sitting and planning, he ends up moving them to come and start shooting at my stuff and moves them out of that 12-inch range. He didn't remember it until after he took the shots in his shooting phase, so obviously we weren't going to go back that far and let him do it. But so I'm still hoping things are good to have those Knights of Rima run off the board, because that would be the best news I've had all day. And this is the point where my opponent realizes that I can charge his knights off the board and that the copter needs to die. So he starts magicking it, throws 2d6 strength 4 flaming hits, only gets 1 through, so I'm feeling good. And then he manages to get off an immolation, which drops in front of my Deep Watch to prevent them from, or to punish them if they do decide to go support the fight with the chariots. And he gets his fireball and targets the copter with it. Rolls 2 for the number of hits, wounds with both, and I save 0. So he blows the copter out of the sky with the attribute from the magic. Which basically pays for his wizard because he saved his entire unit plus his general there. So magic is definitely having a big impact in this game, or at least my opponent's magic is up to this point. Then over here, he does his shooting from the Sea Guard that just came on and peels off 4 more of my Guildcraft Gunners. I'd just like to say at this point, I understand the idea of changing some prices on stuff to prevent a full-on gun line by increasing core. The problem is it's almost made these units not worth taking. Because this unit I've got here is 488 points for 16 shots at the beginning and way less than that now. And it hurts. I feel like you can't, it's hard to make a balanced list with the dwarves now. Because you can't do just a little shooting because the points for what you're outputting are just so outrageous. Unless you're doing everything shooting and you're just hiding in a corner, there's no way it's worth it. And then combat. Oh my god. The impacts and the great weapon hits on the back of these guys kill, what is that, 9 dwarves? And then I hit back. My lord whiffs like crazy, frankly because these chariots are toughness 4, so my terrible rune setup I have doesn't trigger, so he's swinging at strength 4. So I think I get 1 wound on the chariot on the left. And then the chariot on the right, I do 6 attacks with the 3 Kingsguard that are there. And I wound 4 times. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to kill him. He's up to a 6-up armor save and rolls 4 freaking 6s. You can see 3 of them on the board. The other one ended up bouncing off to the side. But he ended up rolling 4 6s to armor save. Oh my god. So I do nothing to the chariot on the right. He wins by a mile, but since my Dwarf King is in there, the Kingsguard are stubborn and I do not break. So, Dwarven Hold's turn 2. I decide with that abysmal battle, I need to get in there before he just finishes me off. So, I figure I've still got a 4-up armor save. When I hit that fire, I'll go ahead and do it. So I run over there, hit the side of this chariot, and end up taking 4 wounds because, again, I can't roll armor saves. So, yeah, it was bad. But I'm thinking, okay, now I'll be able to just kind of blow through here, and we should be good to go. And over here, I'm having my copter come back to try and deal with the Phoenix. And I don't know what I'm showing here. I think I shuffled. Oh, okay, yeah. The Great Weapon Greybeards are coming up, so that they'll be roughly within charge range of either of those 2 groups, depending upon how things are going to go. And he holds my magic underwater. No real issue there. But I do kill 1 more of his lancers with the shooting from my remaining 8 handgunner guys. And then the combat goes. So, looking at this now, I'm not sure that we did this right, because I don't know how things happen in the middle of battle. But my lord decides to show up at initiative higher than everything else, and he murders the left chariot, which leads the Deep Watch out of the combat. Now, I'm not sure at this point, because they're just out of the combat, if I should get an overrun because I charged. I didn't even think of it at the time, but if I had done that, I would have gotten into the side of the other one most likely, and it could have been okay. But forgetting that, then I was so annoyed because of how things went, I forgot to even reform them. So I left them with their backs pointed to essentially all of the crap that matters. And, like, oh, I'm so frustrated with myself. But he ends up armor saving. I get 2 more wounds on the leftmost, or the rightmost chariot, the one that's still there. Again, he's got 2 6-ups to make, and he makes both of them. So this chariot has successfully rolled 6 6-up armor saves in a row. And I ain't touched it. He did 1 wound to me. With the... See, I'm not sure how we did it right or wrong. But anyway, he ends up he loses, but not by much. Ends up getting his break check, and he's not going anywhere. I do end up reforming, so I bring sort of the 3 that aren't in combat behind the 3 that are, so hopefully next turn I'll be able to finish it off. So Highborn Elves go next, and realizing that I was stupid and that I got these units here with no support, my opponent decides to bring his Sea Guard down the throat of my Greybeards. He makes the charge easily. I think it was an auto charge because he's got a champion there. And I'm still feeling okay about this. I mean, they're strength 3 spears versus strength or toughness 4 dwarves. He'll probably kill a few, but I should be able to just absolutely murder whatever happens next. Then, of course, his knights rally and spin around where they're at. I guess I couldn't have hoped for a little good luck to have to send them off the board, but it is what it is. Then his magic goes off. He ends up dropping another d6 strength 4 flaming attacks, killing one of the gunners, and kills another one on the fireball. I think this was the turn he only had 2 dice. Like, he rolled 2 for the winds of magic, so he had 2 dice to my 1. And still managed to get the spell off. Then we go into combat. I do actually get 2 wounds through on the chariot this time, so I don't kill it. He kills 1 to me. He loses by 1 or 2, breaks this time, and I fail to chase him down. So he's running off. I've got a completely useless unit hanging out with my king, and yeah. And this is the point where I realize, holy shit, I didn't turn my Deep Watch around, and I'm stinking up this board today. Then we go into combat over here, and this pretty much worked out like I thought it was going to work out. I lose 2 of the Greybeards. I drop 6 of the Elves in return. And I want to say the only reason the 2 dropped was that his character is like strength 5. So his character just started chopping dudes up. So I win. He's got a rank on me at this point, I believe, so he's stubborn, because he did break my 3rd rank. And he did not need his reroll to not go anywhere there. So Dwarven holds turn 3. I decide, you know what, I need something to turn the battle here. Maybe more attacks will do it. So I go ahead and throw those gunners into the flank of the spearmen, figuring there's really not anything else for them to do. I also finally swift reform and move up my Deep Watch, figuring that they should probably be paying attention to the actual battle. And I decide that I am not going to send my king and what little points I have of Kingsguard after that chariot. So I just reform them, and I move up the copter to shoot at it. Over here, I realize that really magic or shooting is the only thing I've got to get rid of these guys before these knights come and just ruin my day. So I try throwing some spells from the anvil at it. He stops me, and then I decide to shoot it with the ballista. I do get the first hit on it, which kills one of them, and then I fail to wound the second one. So one shot, one dead, maybe too little, too late. And then combat goes my way. He actually kills one of the gunners on the side, two of the great weapon graybeards. I kill a bunch more elves. He auto breaks. I think I win the fight by 9 or 10. And he runs off, and again, both units fail to catch. So I've got the gunners 1 inch behind, and the great weapons farther behind that. The only benefit of this right now is that exactly where they stopped prevents him from getting any charges on my units with the Knights of Remo. So at this point, I need to try and figure out how to delay him, because I do not want to eat. Really, I think that the Deep Watch are about the only unit that I want to eat a charge from out of those guys, because I think they're going to delete the Graybeards, and they certainly will delete the 4 remaining gunners, and I don't want any part of that. So, Highborn Elves turn 4. Things keep going well for me. His BSB's unit fails to rally and continues to run basically right into the face of his knights. So I'm thinking this is going to be great. That's going to tie them up for another turn. I'm pretty happy with that. Also, the chariot over here fails to rally and continues to run. And then over here, he kind of shuffles around a little bit. He realizes he's getting bunched up a little bit and wants to try and find an open area to get his knights through. Oh, and magic. I'm getting absolutely beaten in magic every phase. He's rolling like 10 dice to 5 and is just powering through what he needs to power through. But he drops an immolation here to cause me problems with chasing or with going after his lancers, and then uses the fireball from the immolation going off to kill one more of my Kingsguard in the back. And then he succeeds in getting the aura version of Scorching Salvo off, and it ends up killing, from left to right, 3 more gunners, 2 great weapon graybeards, nothing out of the Deep Watch, and 1 more of the Kingsguard. But we're dwarves. A little magic's not going to send us running to the hills quite yet. So, Dwarven Holds turn 4 starts with some charges. I charge his fleeing BSB's unit with my 1 dwarf. They run just a little bit, but I don't catch, and then I charge them again with the great weapon unit, and it sends them running to where you see them. He's a few inches from the edge of the board. I just didn't have a third thing to charge him with. And then I charged the Deep Watch at his Lancer unit with the mage in it. He decided to flee there. They end up running, hitting the Knights of Rima and bouncing through them. So they're close to the edge of the board. And I actually stopped before I hit the immolation template, which I figure is pretty nice. If I'm extraordinarily lucky, 1 or both of those units may run off the board next turn, and that would have things looking really, really good for me. I decide. I decide to move up the chopper to keep following the chariot, figuring that either it'll run off the board or I'll be able to shoot it, and then I'll bring the steam copter around to hopefully cause some trouble. And then my Anvil of Power becomes too good when I don't need it to be too good. I was trying to drop a few strength 6 hits on the Lancers. My hope was to get them down to half strength, or down to a quarter strength, so that they would be making that leadership check on half. I ended up way overdoing it, getting all 6 hits, only 4 wounds, so I didn't even get enough to do damage to the mage, and killed the Lancer unit. So now the mage is going to be reforming on her normal leadership next turn. It was good to get some points, but it was like, I can't win for losing here. And then over here in shooting, my chopper decides to finally take out the chariot, which is good because this thing was just pissing me off all game. Uh, and then Highborn Elves turn 5. Things go bad. He ends up declaring a charge on my great sword guy or great weapon guys. I don't feel like I can risk fleeing. So he ends up making the charge, and he made the charge with like 17 on 3 dice. So yeah, there was no way, even if I had fled. But with the way these guys hit, he's just going to blow through these great weapon guys, and they're going to be gone. And then, to make matters worse, he rallies both units over here, so his mage and his BSB's unit are still in the pink. Then he starts throwing fire. He ends up killing 2 Deep Watch with the 2d6 strength 4 flaming hits. And then we go into combat, and pretty much as I said, I do manage to kill one of the Knights of Rima, mainly because I got lucky. But he killed everything in the unit except for the champion and my runesmith, Kale, and ran them down big time. So they're dead, and he is well beyond the threat range of any of my stuff. So those guys running the ballista are looking real nervous right now. So Dwarven holds turn 5. I've kind of got a plan that might help, so I swift reform everybody and try and push him this way. I figure he's going for the ballista. If he can hit the ballista on his next turn and kill it, he's not going to want to overrun because it'll send him off the board. And he doesn't get a reform, so it's possible that I can hit him in the back with making 2 decent charges. So I'm okay with that. My one gunner is giving the one finger salute to the rest of his army over there because he's a dead man and he knows it. I also go ahead and bring the copter to the side of the hill here so that it might be able to get a flank charge just to add some more combat res to it. Because I think the game can still be mine if I can take this unit down because there's a lot of points in it. And Highborn Elves turn 6. He ends up charging the ballista because I got nothing else off. He stopped my magic cold. So we go into his turn. Now, I know he's got the facing wrong here because you don't get an automatic close the door with the knights when you attack a war machine. So we fix it in the next picture, but I just didn't take a second picture of this. And over here, he just moves his guy. Or he tries to charge the gunner. I shoot once, miss, and then he fails the charge. But then he proceeds to magic it to death. I think he got the salvo off again because it looks like there's 2 Deep Watch killed and the gunner there. I just didn't note it on the slide here. And over here, he absolutely murders this war machine. Auto hits at strength 7, I think they're swinging at. Just, yeah, no problem. So then we go to my turn, and my plan falls apart. I have 3 charges to make. The only one I succeeded with was the copter. So I'm thinking all I've done here is served him up another 160 points, like he needed my help. But yeah, I didn't need much at all. I think I needed a 6 or a 7 with the Deep Watch unit, and maybe a 10 with the. I mean, the king and the one remaining Kingsguard was a long shot, but 6 or 7 I should have hit and just botched it like crazy. But then we go into combat. His prince moves over to go after the copter, and his prince flubs. So he does no wounds to me. I can't get through his armor, and that is pretty much that. We end the game after turn 6. As Prince Victus peered over the battlefield, a slight grin settled on his face. He had repaid the aggression of the dwarves with his own. He had shown them that Port Kaer'vyan was under his protection, and none would take it from him. Though few others would celebrate the shape of the battlefield as a mammoth victory. Fires still blazed, smoke choked everything, and the dead were piled everywhere. This would be acceptable if not for the amount of dead that had been charred and burned beyond recognition. Although the worst of it came from the lions, who had broken free of their chariots and now dined on the dead of both races. "My prince," Commander Sewell called, snapping Thal's attention. "We have gathered the dead, and the living wish to return to camp." "Ah, very well, Commander. No need to delay their return, I suppose," the prince answered, his golden armor thick with still wet blood. It gave his form an eerie, almost villainous feel, though in truth he cared little for what others would see of him. His only purpose, his only true care, was the continued prosperity and safety of his people. As the prince and his detachment of knights left, well after the rest of the army had vacated the field, the prince felt a moment of unease, as though something inside him foretold of some harrowing event to come. A sense of dread, and one he could not easily shake. "Quickly, men! I fear the camp may need us." With his words, the entourage galloped off towards the elves in camp. All right, and needless to say, this was a victory for the Highborn Elves. We factored in points. It was 12-8 after everything was said and done. But personally, this felt like a much bigger loss to me. Really looking at it, I don't feel like I was very much an agent of anything in this battle. Really, the only reason that I ultimately ended up taking down the Lancers is because of the 4-man miscast that they took in the first turn. Him failing the leadership 10 roll he shouldn't have failed kept his knights out of it for a long time. If he had gotten those 2 turns with the knights, he probably could have wiped out the rest of the army. And just, yeah. It did not feel like I really had much going on in this battle. It also didn't help that I made some pretty big blunders in terms of like not turning around the Deep Watch, and in general building my lord like I did my king. Yeah, his whole array is like Rune Array just needs to be rebuilt from the ground up because it's garbage. Particularly against the elves. Now, maybe against a higher toughness army, it would be better, but the few things with that high toughness in the elf army to trigger that rune are all flyers, and they're never going to let me get in combat with them anyway. So there's not much of a point. All in all, my opponent played it very well. He had some rough luck, but just dominated the magic phase. Pushed through. He ended up getting 2 miscasts. The second one ended up not doing much of anything because it miscast like while he was by himself over there during the last turn, and it didn't actually it didn't actually hurt him at all. But my opponent played it very well and just beat me silly. Uh, there are some big issues I'm having with Dwarven holds right now. The biggest thing being the just complete lack of cost effectiveness of taking just a little bit of shooting. I want just a little bit of shooting, and having to pay 488 points for a 16-man unit of gunners is just not where it's at. Maybe I get more benefit going with the crossbowmen. A couple of units of those guys in 10-mans might be a good idea. But we looked at the points after that, and for that unit of 16 crossbowmen, or 16 gunners, the way they were arrayed, I could have had a unit of 20 slayers with 60 points left over. Um, so yeah, I mean, I understand the idea of changing the points to make it harder on gunlines, but I don't think it necessarily helps those of us who only want to take 1 or 2 units, um, and have them be good. But whatever. Um, Maybe I shouldn't have taken the guild crafted upgrade because that's a lot of points. But I'll be looking back at my dwarf list. So anybody who has any thoughts on that, certainly feel free to leave them below. But otherwise, this was another harrowing victory for the Highborn Elves, and they're getting into a good place in the narrative so far. Seems like they're holding Port Kaer'vyan without any trouble. um, but the nice thing is, next week when we play, our third player will finally be able to rejoin us again. So there is going to be more excitement than just elves on dwarves. Furthermore, there is. I am also going to be introducing my second army into the narrative to kind of mix things up and give us some variety as well. So certainly look forward to those. As always, if you have any questions, comments, anything we got right or wrong, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you next time.